Wow, what a blessing and an honor to be here to present to you guys. And we were asked to show you some of the stuff that we're doing, and it's been quite the whirlwind. But the health and safety officer position is brand new for us, and I know that, gosh, many of the departments, as I'm finding, don't have one. And it's the training/safety position. And I just want to give you just a real quick brief preview of what I do as the health and safety officer. So as defined, it's the individual assigned and authorized by the fire chief to manage the health and safety program. That's a lot larger than just a side product of training. So I encourage you, one of the main things that you might start to look at is pushing that within your department to get somebody dedicated to this position. The health and safety position itself is everything under 1,500. That's everything for me. So everything within 1,500, all subsections. 1521 deals in the safety officer position, but it's both the health and safety position and the incident safety officer. So the incident safety officer is not me. And that was one of the big misconceptions when I started the position. I showed up and it's like, oh, okay, Dave's here, you're safety. No, actually I'm here as a representative from the fire chief to look for the city's interests and to see the overall look of the incident and how it's going to affect things. Yes, I can do that role for a brief period, but ultimately somebody else needs to be assigned to that. So it kind of talks about both. In 1500, health and wellness, this is the first edition, this last 2018, where health and wellness is actually put in there. It wasn't in the 2013 edition. So they're starting to recognize the importance of all the stuff that we do. Again, in 1521, chapter 4 is on the health and safety officer, 5 is on the incident safety officer, and they're not the same. So this is my org chart, and as you look at the health and safety position, what actually is it? And the easiest way to explain it is EMS handles the citizens, and I handle the workforce. So everything health and wellness related, physical, the behavioral, the cancer prevention, the occupational health and safety committee, all the studies, these are my worker bees, the health and safety committee. I have my wellness officer, Captain Brainerd. We just added a cancer and health coordinator position, so both of those reside under me. But the health and safety committee is comprised of individuals throughout the workforce, and their responsibility is to make sure that they look after all the health and wellness issues. It used to be that the health and safety committee was just a glorified equipment committee, right? But we expanded it out, and now there's subcommittees in all the health programs as well. It's made up of all divisions, not A, B, and C, but the divisions of the department. So fire rescue is fire, lifeguards, dispatchers, civilians, fire prevention, all the different divisions. There's representatives from each of those on the health and safety committee. So behavioral wellness, why we're here today. So we have the behavioral wellness program, and most of the things that you've been hearing out there, I'm sure, is really a problem. Is that really a problem? You're okay? All right, good. It won't happen to us, but it will back then. We take care of our own, right? We can handle it. We're okay. As the chief said earlier, we tough it up. You go to an incident and you ask, hey, you guys okay? What do we say? Yeah, we're fine. We're fine, right? We don't experience the same types of calls as them, meaning maybe a bigger department or maybe a different agency, right? So we all experience it. So I don't know if you've seen this yesterday or not, but we're actually listed in the first criteria of determining PTSD. It's not military, it's us. That's the very first criteria. you got to get through this to actually get fully diagnosed. So we're already in it. So what is comprehensive? That term gets tossed around a lot. And so do we have a comprehensive program, Dave? What do we need to do? And so we kind of start out, and the typical question is, okay, so we get peer support. Is that enough? Maybe, okay, we'll go start getting the peer support. We're going to start training them. Well, how about we add some chaplains? Chaplains are a good thing. They do different types of interventions. They're actually very highly trained. But what do you do with those peer support and chaplains? How are you selecting them? How are you training them? So there's different selection methods for us. We're still kind of forming our policies and getting everything union ratified, but essentially it's a voluntary program. So people submit letters volunteering their interest. We eventually will have an advisory board. That advisory board will be made up of people from the Health and Safety Committee, the chaplaincy, the peer support, each one of the union representatives, because we have 5 different labor groups within the city. And even within fire rescue, we have 4. So each one of those will have a representative. One of the chaplains will be there. They'll look at the different qualifications, make some recommendations to the Assistant Chief of Operations, my boss, and which is one of the other things. So between me and my boss is a deputy, and I don't report to a deputy. I report directly to the AC, which is really important for this position. There can't be filters. Right? I got to be able to go straight to the person who can make something happen. I've been given the authority to stop actions, so I don't take that lightly. So, we can't, in the Health and Safety Committee, make gold-plated recommendations. One of the things that is underused on the Health and Safety Committee for agencies that don't have one, it's all of public record, and it's something that management needs to respond to. So those of you that are management in here, I'm sorry, but I'm not. When we make a recommendation to management on behalf of the workforce, they have to act on it. And that's whether to say no, yes, or maybe pending budget, right? So fortunately, none of the recommendations we've been making have been denied, and that's because we're doing it all data-driven and really just doing like a lot of good research and not making those gold-plated, acts requests, right? They got to be fundamentally sound, right? So how are you selecting them? That's how we do it. The advisory board makes the recommendation. We heard a couple different models. Phoenix, they put out a questionnaire to their workforce and just said, if you were to talk to somebody, list 3 people you would talk to. So they asked the whole workforce confidentially. They took the top whatever names that actually people mentioned, and then they whittled it down from there. So they just took people that people recommended and then asked them if they wanted to do it. So there's different ways to do it. You have to determine within your agency what's going to work best. But what's important is what they get afterwards. You can't just become a peer support team member. You got to have to actually have some training. So all of our peer support team members, before they can be active members, they have to go through the 3-day CISM training. This is just one organization that puts those on. So it's the Mitchell model. They go through the full thing. We've also put our fire operations personnel through the IFF course. 2 different courses, 2 different emphasis. They both do different things. IFF course is a little more firefighter specific, but we have more than firefighters on fire rescue. So there's a lot of different models. They don't do the 3rd day, they just do the 2-day course. So we believe in the diffusings in San Diego, they work. So we continue to do them. One of the big things we have is with our psychological services contract, which I'll go into later, one of the clinicians is our peer support clinician. So everything we do is clinician focused and based. So they do all the training. The 3-day course that they attend is by a clinician teaching the course. All of our peer support trainings are ongoing with clinician oversight. So this is our policy for our peer support clinician. It's part of our psychological services. There's an individual who all the peer support team members know they can contact. So there's areas of, I come to you and I need some assistance. They know what their level is of help, right? Okay, this is going to be beyond me. You're going to need some support. It's completely confidential, so they call the clinician. They can call Brent or I, Captain Brainerd, but there's going to be that confidentiality piece. So you got to get the buy-in. Hey, I'm going to call a clinician. I'm going to call Chief Picone. I'm going to call Captain Brainerd. Is it okay? Right? You got to get all that up front. There's no secrets. If they don't want you to tell anybody, they don't. The difference between talking to the clinician directly is they can get that professional assistance and guidance on where they should be directed from there. Okay? The peer support clinician also does our quarterly training. They look at all our stats and what's going on and what type of training we're going to need. So every quarter, we have a peer support training. This is our next quarter one in May. So on May 14th and 15th, CAL FIRE, what we have done, Captain Brainerd's done a really good job of reaching out to the jurisdictions within the county. And so we all have who our leads are. And so we're coordinating different trainings. We're formalized. We're able to have these quarterly trainings. Our peer support team members are paid to go to the trainings. They're not paid to actually help people, because that's not why you do it. We're not doing it to get paid. But they are supported by management, which is huge, right? So we're fortunate enough to have these trainings, and so we invite all the jurisdictions to come and watch it as well. So CAL FIRE is helping us with this one here, and they're going to go into the Corey Iverson death and what happened with peer support specifically on that incident. And so you can register at either one of these sites, and we can give you some of that information here if you'd like to attend. So notifications and trends. We use a Zip-It app. If you're not familiar with that, Zip-It is an application for your iPhones that's tied in with CAD, our dispatching system. So all of our engines, ambulances, truck companies, all of our units are dispatched with this now. We don't have pagers. So they all have iPhones now. And so we have all of our peer support, and our chaplains have that same app on their phones. And so we're able to page out. So we have 46 peer support team members. We're adding our 13th chaplain. And so when dispatch pages health and safety, we reach out, determine what the need is going to be, and then we're able to page our peers or our chaplains and get a response. Tracking trends, we also use a software called Smartsheet, and there's plenty of different types, but it's basically just a project management sheet. We have a form, and it's one that they have on their phones as well. So when they have a peer support contact of some sort, they document what it is. And we've made it very, very vague purposely because it cannot be subpoenaed, and it cannot be in our policy. They cannot even be compelled during a fact finding to reveal it. That's gone through the city attorney, and management's bought off on it completely, 100%. So if there's a fact finding on an individual, you can't go up to the peer support and say, hey, I know you've been talking to them. I'm giving you a direct order to tell me that they've been drinking. You can't. Okay? And on their forms, it's very generic. It's nondescript, doesn't give names, doesn't give their gender, doesn't give the date, just gives a month and a contact and the basic type of incident that they were talking to them about. So the reason for that is that we're able to track these trends, and in 2018, these are the ones that they went to most: PTSD, critical incidents, alcohol abuse, stress issues, and we just came up with a bunch of general topics. This is what our clinician looks at to determine what our next quarterly trainings are going to be. So what's going on right now within the department? What do we need to address? Okay. We're also able, because of that tracking, we're also able to keep track of our peers. We need to make sure that they're okay. Okay, is this peer getting used too much? Are they starting to see this type of thing too much? Okay, compassion fatigue is real, and we need to be cognizant of that. And with that, within our policy for the peers, they're required to go seek counseling at least twice a year, and that's through whoever they want. But we have a contract with Focus Psychological Services here in San Diego, and so that's free to our members, active duty, retired, and their families. Anytime, all confidential, the department receives no records. All we get as a department is a number of hours utilized. So we don't know if it was 100 hours billed, we don't know if that was 2 people or 100 people. Right? You go in through one door, out another. You never see the same person. Okay, you're never going to run into somebody that you have there. They have 10 different clinicians, so we fully encourage them to use that. When I first started in the position, it was very new, the contract, and we're utilizing about 40 to 50 hours a month. This last month, it was about 200 hours. So people are starting to get the word out. They're starting to feel comfortable talking about it and seeking and getting the help. Okay, so we encourage them to do that. Compassion fatigue goes with not even talking to people too much, if you're having to deal with peer support, but even Brent and I'll just use myself as an example, just having to go through, boy, it's sad. It really is. I mean, I knew there was a problem, but once I got in this position, it was, wow. We're getting calls weekly for people who need help. And gosh, if I just said vehicle under a tree, hanging, child abuse, burn victim, amputation, any of that stuff kind of flash something into your head? Yeah, that's some PTSD right there, right? And it's just real, right? And that doesn't mean you're fully needing assistance and you're at the level of fully needing counseling, but you have something in your brain that's gone against your moral fiber. And I'm not a clinician, so I'm just talking my kind of speak. It's ingrained in your head where you remember visually the sights, sounds, the people you were with, and you can remember them in detail, right? How many times is that going to happen before it just gets to you, right? So I'm talking to people, they're calling me up, I'm like, God, I went on this incident, I'm going on this, and it's constantly flashing stuff in my head as I'm talking to them, right? So there's where the compassion fatigue comes in. And I'll get home and with my wife, I'm like, God, I'm burnt, right? So you just have to recognize that in yourself and get some help.
Is there evidence that, I just see what happens in the fire service, 80s and 90s, just started coming out, and then it kind of went away. They said, well, what we're doing, this is really good, it's important that we do it, CISD, all this stuff's going on. A couple years go by, they go, whoa, time out. We're finding out that it's not so good now. So I'm always, in my group, trying to put the brakes on some issues like this, because we're going to find out 2 years from now or 3 years from now. New studies suggest that we're going in the wrong direction. We shouldn't be going this way, talking about
What specifically you're asking? Which studies about what?
About the effectiveness of these programs and talking about, is there information that suggests it's very successful, or do we think it's going to be successful because?
So I just went with, I'll just use a recent example with Chula Vista is looking to get a contract with some stuff. And so can you give us some data? Is this working? How can I tell my city manager that it's okay to spend this money? Right? Okay, so is there anything to support this? No. There's not. What is it? Is it a good thing? Is it a matter of us leaders being able to teach our leaders that it's important? It's pretty evident that we're in the criteria, right? We meet that. Our police partners have been utilizing Focus, I believe, for 15 years, something like that. And they have their wilderness unit in 7 years. So us fire service personnel, we're just kind of starting to catch up to stuff that they're doing. And most of the stuff we put together was in partnership with them. We kind of looked at them and said, hey, you guys are doing this wellness stuff pretty good on the behavioral side. We're doing the physical stuff real good. Let's kind of get together and figure out where we can kind of meet paths. So with the showing that the criteria, keeping the tracking, that's mostly for the training purposes, but eventually that might be that in a perfect world, our members are feeling better, right? They're starting to act better. We have more productive employees, but our peer support numbers are through the roof because they're being utilized. So now we'll be able to say, okay, look, they're being utilized, and this is why we can fundamentally still support this. The fact that we've gone from 50 hours to 200 hours. My bosses never ask me names, but we've admitted more than I can even tell you, and into facilities for treatment, long-term facilities, and those employees are coming back more productive. Will it eventually start getting better? I hope, but there's a couple reasons why there's no data. One is they do it confidentially. Okay, so as we'll go into in a little bit, and actually if you just remind me about this when we get to that slide, and I'll remember, and I'll finish this off in a second. So I'm just keeping the suspense. So compassion fatigue, you got to have specific policies in place for your peer support and chaplains. What are they supposed to do? How do they get responded? And what are their stuff? And then the fact-finding portion we already spoke about, they cannot be compelled to disclose any information. The only thing that they have to report, we're still mandated reporters, right? So you have to make that clear, and in any peer support training, they make that clear as well. There's certain things that you can't tell somebody without having to report it. They've committed a crime, sexual conduct, there's like 5 different criteria. I can't remember what they are, but entire program fails with a breach of confidentiality. So every class, everything we do is focused on the confidential piece. We make sure that everything is purely confidential. There's no identifiers anywhere, and they can be expelled if they do. This is our peer support policy for the confidentiality. By the way, all this stuff right here, we've been actually, again, blessed and honored that people have been calling to get our policies, and it's been quite the whirlwind. Agencies from across the nation and even the UK, they're like, hey, can we see your policies? We've heard what you're doing. Like, what? So it's been kind of cool. So you can reach out to Brent or I at any point after this, and we'll be happy to talk to you about what you're doing and try to put the whole thing together. I presented the same thing to the county chiefs, all the O1s for the San Diego region just recently, and they, for the first time ever, decided to start the health and safety section for the county. So now every jurisdiction has a health and safety representative. One of our first tasks being to create the county policies for all this stuff. So it's going to be kind of based on some of the things you see here, and every jurisdiction has a little bit of nuances. We have one of our members here, Ron. He's been helping out a lot too. So, so our confidentiality, every peer, every chaplain signs this agreement, right? We're going to go to court? No, obviously not, but it is grounds for them to be dismissed. They're held to a very strict standard of confidentiality. Nobody knows who we're talking about unless we know they're talking about them, all right? So all that, and we just got through peers and chaplains, right? It's a lot of stuff just for peers and chaplains, but what is comprehensive? So everybody says, well, tell me what I need to do, right? What's the flow path? Okay, if we do this, this person comes to me with this problem, this is what I'm going to do, X, Y, and Z, and okay, then they're going to get streamlined. And no, it doesn't happen. This is the best I could find. It's called the decision forest, right? Because you don't know. And a couple of you mentioned it just briefly. You don't know what you don't know. right? And every single person is very unique. It's a one-off, every time. I don't know that there's very small similarities, like they all have two people might have the same drinking type problem, but their insurance is different. Where they're at in their stage is different, right? So you have to approach them all differently and ask them different questions and have the answers. So that's the key. What's your plan? What's your available options? And when I took the position, Chief Weber, who's my boss, he said, Dave, if somebody calls you, you better have an answer. Okay. So I started meeting with PD, started meeting with RISC, started meeting with all the people that we could, and trying to figure out what the heck's going on. So the rest has just kind of been snowballing, and it's been really good stuff, and trying to figure out how we're going to manage the whole thing. So is it EAP? What is EAP? Is EAP enough? Is it like San Diego City where it's 2 people? Right, 2 people for the entire city. They're handling last chance agreements mostly, right? And, bless their hearts, the 2 girls there, they do a great job, but they refer you out and you have a minimum of 3 visits, right? With our contract with Focus, you can go unlimited anytime, any place. And again, it's for the retired, active, and their families, right? If you don't help their families, Chief Meacham said when he was talking, don't bring it home, right? How easy that's great and profound, but we do. We bring it home. We unknowingly bring it home. So you got to help the families. What happens at home, you bring to work. So if you're not helping the families out, you're losing those members. And if this helps you at all, before I got in here as a BC in ops and as a captain, you always hear that great term, I want to make sure you go home safe, right? Okay, let's maybe change that to, I want to make sure you come back to work safe. How about that? The captain who committed suicide up in LA, one of them, I spoke to a couple of the people that were in his state. He left fully, hey, see you guys next shift. You don't know. I mean, with our department is large, and we're admitting a lot of people. So if you extrapolate that out to maybe some of the smaller jurisdictions, you have a few. And you definitely have people who need help. We need to make sure they come back to work. So we have counseling services. We have our EAP for the city, but we also have the counseling service. Like I said, it's focused psychological services. A lot of great clinicians here in the county that handle different aspects. Tina's one, and each agency has to determine what's best for them. And we've just had a great experience with these guys. I keep hitting the button, I'm sorry. Counseling services. So what our counseling services handles, they not only do all of our counseling when the people go in there, but they also come to do our debriefs. So they're available also on Zip It. One of their clinicians is our peer support lead. One of their clinicians handles our debriefings. So the health and safety office will get a page saying, hey, an incident happened. And we determine the level. We talk to the BC, the captain, whoever was in charge. Okay, what happened? Tell us what's going on. And then we determine, is a chaplain good enough for this? Is it a rise to that? Maybe it's just the peer support's going to check back in with them. So we reach out to our peer support lead, who's also here, Ben Vernon, and thank you. And we determine which peers, we assign peers to them afterwards, so even if there is a debrief, there's a peer assigned to the individual to do some follow-up and check in on them. Or the chaplaincy will reach out. But if it rises to the level of full debrief, then we have one of the clinicians show up at the station, and we take them out of service and take care of business. When we had recently Engine 10 had a couple the engine and a couple firefighters first day on the job under gunfire. Right, is that stressful? I think so, right? Middle of the night, you show up for smoke check, right? No big deal. Smoke check, they're messing around, PD's there. PD opens the door and complete gunfire, chaos, and they all thought they were going to die. Captain, engineer, and the two probies. And so we set up the debrief. We had the clinician and a bunch of people there within the hour. They were out of service. Their debrief lasted a little longer because they were just talking, right? They just needed to let it out. And fortunately, they're doing good right now. But a debrief typically, I don't remember ever going through one, right? 30 years, right? You'd think it was supposed to be like some train wreck to go through a debrief. But no, we're holding them a lot now. We're doing them for anything that could be stressful, right? Could be minor with just a peer support, could be major with the clinician. But we're identifying it, and the crews appreciate it. They're saying thank you for, hey, we're okay, but hey, thanks for being concerned. Typically, they only last 15, 20 minutes. Hey, just want to let you know, in the next couple days, you might be feeling X, Y, and Z. If you start finding that you're not sleeping, you're drinking, you're getting irritated, and it's not going away, the nightmares, all that stuff, here's your resources. You can call the clinicians, you can call the health and safety office, here's the chaplain's numbers, and let us know if we can help you. Anybody need to talk? Do you want to talk about the incident? I mean, I'm not a professional debriefer, but that's kind of how it goes, right? And then we have peer support follow-up from there. Done. Okay, go to bed. Right? We're not trying to totally inconvenience the crews. Dispatch queues in CAD. So we're working with dispatch so that way certain incidents automatically create a response by us. For example, we're not at this point yet, but the same medic goes on 3 infant deaths over a 2-month period. Maybe that might be a peer support reach out. Just check in with people. What about those people that are injured and away from work for 6 to 8 months? God, nobody even called me. Right? What happened to them? Right? They're going to come back and go, gosh, I'm totally disconnected from the workforce. Right? So now we're starting to look at ways of having the peer support reach out to those guys too. A regional support, and I had touched on that earlier. So Brent's been working with a lot of the other agencies, and what we do now is we all know peers exist. It's not an automatic response. We're not saying it's completely border drop and borderless, but what we are saying is, hey, if you have somebody, one of your members right now in San Diego that's calling you and saying, hey, I'm on the side of the road and I'm going to do it, I want you guys to call Brent or I, and we'll have a peer supporter there. Okay, you don't have to have somebody in our jurisdiction. We might have somebody that can go, right? Same thing for us. If we have somebody in your jurisdiction, I want to be able to call and say, hey, I got a captain on the side of the road right now, and he's not in a good place. Do you have anybody that can respond? Okay, so that's kind of what that is. If there's a large incident, certainly, you're going to need support. And so that's what knowing each other is going to be. We're not just saying, hey, here's our list of peer supporters, start calling. No, we're the point of contact. We'll do a page. We know what each person's special area is. There's a lot of power in Me Too. So somebody that's had cancer, and you can say, yeah, gosh, I never had cancer, but I bet it sucks, right? But if I've had cancer, there's that connection. Right, same with somebody with maybe a drinking problem or the other stuff. So we kind of have a good feel of what the peers and chaplains are good at. Okay, so comprehensive is. So peer support, the chaplains, and the counseling service. But now we get into the nitty-gritty. Right? What is your plan? What's going to happen? Okay, we can take care of them on the front end, but if you don't know what you're going to do with these people, you're going to be just, I don't know, what do we do? Right, so we started meeting with risk management. When we met with risk management, they had no idea. We're telling them, look, here's the deal. Somebody comes in, we're getting the people called in, and they're having to go to 30-day facilities with no pay. Like, what? No pay? Like, why are they not getting paid? Right? Because we're the helpers. We're not going to ask for help. We wait till the last minute. We've exhausted our annual leave, is what we call it. So your vacation time, your sick time, you've used it all. You're completely down with your money. Your husband or wife's leaving you, and now you need help. Okay, well, that's wrong. Yeah, that's wrong. What are we going to do? Okay, so we started looking at the different processes with FMLA, long-term disability, the workers' compensation. How is the insurances treating this? What are the facilities available? Well, there's no facilities available. Let's see. To the IFF on the West Coast, the East Coast, and they take PTSD and dependency issues. They're really damn expensive, and I'm an IFF member too, but they're expensive, right? Good stuff, but what are we going to do with them? What are the insurances? So people, now this is back to your question, coming back in, is most people choose the FMLA and long-term disability route. Why? Because workers' compensation, if I break my arm on the job, it's work-related, right? 100%, right? If I claim a mental thing, harm on the job, I have to prove that it's 51% job-related in the state of California. Okay, so I have to give my 10 years of history to risk management. They're going to sift through my medical records. Fortunately for the city, where our risk management is city employees. So one of the other things I was real honest with risk management about, excuse me, is I said, look, people don't trust you. They think you deny claims. They think all you do is sit up here and try to figure out how you're going to say no. And they think you guys get a kickback every time you save money on a workers' comp claim, right? So I was very, very blunt and honest with them, and it worked. And I found out that, no, that's actually not the case. They actually really tried to approve our claims, but most of the time it's because we didn't do the paperwork right. We are skeptical, so we didn't turn in the paperwork, or we delayed. Oh, I don't want them to know my history, so I'm not going to give it to them, and then they have to deny it. They're required to do certain things by law, but they're not looking for the stuff, at least with our city. But you got to get to know them, so I'd encourage you to at least start to get to know the people that are making these decisions. So with the data, if it was work comp related, then yes, there would be the data, because people would be filing the work claim. Then we would be able to track their injury leave time off. We'd be able to say that we're reducing injury leave time off and that we're reducing claims. But the problem is most people don't do that. Most people choose the long-term disability FMLA, which is on your own. So first 30 days, you're on your own. You're using your vacation time, but it keeps you insured. So these are the things we figured out. Okay, we got to get, as soon as somebody's going to go into a facility, we got to get them on FMLA and long-term disability immediately, because the long-term disability will kick in 30 days out. What are they worried about? My pay. Are my kids going to get taken care of? I'm going to be away. I'm not going to get money, right? So we need to make sure that their paycheck stays in place, that they keep their insurance in place, and they keep, their semblance of life at home, so they're not worried about it, right? So that's worried about the long-term disability and the FMLA. So workers' compensation, sometimes we'll do both tracks at the same time, and risk management has been cool with us about that, because they know we're trying to get them on the work comp route, but it might get denied because they can't get the 51%. But at least they're insured, at least they're getting their paycheck. So all these things are kind of going all at the same time, and we in health and safety make sure that that's happening, so the employee doesn't have to worry about it. Okay? Then it comes down to the insurances. So we have, with the city, a lot of different insurances, but the city itself, the two primary providers are Cigna and Kaiser. And my boss, He says I've infiltrated risk management, and it's kind of true. I mean, I actually have now, Brent and I, the phone number to the head psychiatrist for Kaiser South Region. So when we have a member that needs to go into a Kaiser facility, we make that direct call. They don't go through the phone tree. When we're meeting with Kaiser this afternoon, as a matter of fact, for some other stuff, and I'll go into that in a little bit, but there's a lot of cool stuff happening right now. And towards the end of the month, you're going to see a pretty big news release that I'll kind of tease you on a little bit. So the treatment facilities, there are none, right? Yet. There's your tease. So how do you reach your members with all that stuff? It's all great stuff, and I still have people going, God, I just didn't know who to call. Right? I mean, we have it everywhere. It's on our bracelets, right? It's our 833 line. We have a toll-free hotline, 833-SDFD-HSO. Anybody can use it. It's primarily for us because it comes to push 1 if you need the crisis support, push 2 if you need peer support, push 3 chaplains for the health and safety, or focused psychological services, 5 for the health and safety officer. It goes through this little phone tree, and we have people that it goes to that are on call, ready to receive your call. We have our own website that we developed with the city, and it's a joint one with PD. And what we did was we created the site kind of like the FireStrong site, but personally, we found it a little cumbersome, so we created our own. And with the city IT, they put it together. We just simplified it. And we have a lot of the same resources. Our peer support phone numbers and chaplains are in there. And all PD is on there as well, so either side can see what each other has. And this is back to the confidentiality piece. City IT was, no, everybody needs a password, right? You can't get into the city network without a password. Like, nobody wants you to know that they were there. And so trying to convince city IT, because it's forward-facing, so you don't have to be in the intranet. You can get it on your phone right now and get to that site. And then when they realize, oh, every family member is going to need a password, and so then they finally agreed, okay, just pick a word, right? So we picked the word, support. So that's the password to get into our website. We have posters in every station, every facility. These are the handouts. It gives all the information. It gives the 800 line, the website, what focused psychological service, peer support chaplains, and all the different things that we can do, our phone numbers for health and safety. Brent and I don't care if our names are on anything. You can have our policies in Word. I don't care. We want to help everybody, right? Our names are not on nothing. It's just phone number, you call, and we just want you guys to get the help. Okay? Tina kind of alluded to this. PD's been doing this for years, and this is just the best thing ever. It's called Family Wellness Day. We just had our 3rd, and we're going to be having our 4th, and it's basically each academy, before they hit the field, they do this. Okay, so what the recruits do, it's mandatory, they get paid. Saturday, first 4 hours, it's all the recruits with the clinicians. Second half of the day, we bring their families in. Spouse, mom, dad, whatever, whoever they want to bring. They come, we provide lunch. In the afternoon, they all meet with the clinicians. This is what your firefighter is going to experience. If they come home and they start doing this, this is what it means. I've gone to Focus personally, and my wife and I, and what a culturally competent clinician is able to do is they're able to like extrapolate what you're doing and what you're saying. My wife said, hey, what's this? So he started asking me some questions, and just by the way I was answering, my wife said, oh, okay, I get it. I don't know what I said that made it make sense, but the point is that we do stuff at home that we don't even realize we're doing, just because of the stuff we see. and who we are. She's always telling me, Dave, you're not my chief. So, I don't know. Right? So this is very cool, and why this is cool is those probies went through this a couple days before they were under gunfire. A lot of the reason why they're doing better. They knew how to reach out already. Okay, they're seeking the help. Eventually, the majority of our department would have gone through this. Right now, we're trying to pick up the bulk of, I don't know who to call, right? So we got to put it out everywhere and make sure it is. So we decided to go one extra step, and Tina and I met, and we did, we said, well, what are we doing for couples? There's a lot of divorces where, you know, how can we reach more people? How can we take the Family Wellness Day model and make it something that the whole workforce and all jurisdictions that can participate in? And then we took it that next step, and Tina said, well, how about we invite the other clinicians too, in addition to Focus, and make this more of a collaborate regional thing. So that's what we did, and we called the first one 2 in, 2 out, Couples Resiliency. So husbands and wives, husbands and husbands, wives and wives, doesn't matter. Couples Resiliency in the fire service. Okay? So we kind of put this together, and we plan to have more in the future of this type and different other topics. So all that, ongoing training for the peer support, the confidential access, continuum of care for the healthy and productive employee. With all honesty, so at the end of the month, we're going to have a press conference, and Cigna's gone way above and beyond for us, and we're going to soon have some very good facilities, culturally competent, that we've been holding classes for. Tina and Ben have held classes for. We've been, for the last 3 or 4 months, been training their clinicians, and at the end of the month, we will all regionally in the nation have access to 4 new facilities here locally. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. It's pretty amazing. They fully on board, streamline access, first phone call gets you the clinician, and they're going to walk your members straight to an office and a waiting room and be culturally competent as you go in there, take into account to all different stuff. All first responders, not just fire. So if you're a ski patrol or whatever, these facilities are going to help you from all across the nation. So why we're meeting with Kaiser is some of the insurance companies, you still have to go through some hoops. So we're going to try to leverage our city position to try to convince them to just let us streamline straight into those facilities. So we're working on that stuff. But in the meantime, here's my point. Please take our numbers down. You have a member that calls you up tonight, we can help you. Okay? We can help you get them into the facility, figure out their insurance, give you the contacts, or at least help you with something you don't already have. Okay? With that, any questions?
Chief, obviously, the problem's been there for a long time within the service. What is happening that we're seeing more, maybe Tina and yourself? Why is it now all this stuff coming to the surface? What has changed within our society or whatever it might be that we're finally recognizing that there's a problem? Was there a tipping point?
Yeah, that's not an uncommon question, and I still haven't got a good answer for it, but I think that there's recognition. Here's an example of why it's always been there, and just not knowing. So I was with an old captain. He's been retired 10 plus years now, and we were just kind of chatting away, and he said, so what are you doing now? And kind of gave him just a brief history. Yeah, I'm doing the health and safety position we're working on. Yeah, it seems to be we don't know why, but the behavioral thing. And this old gruff captain broke down in tears. God, I remember this call I was on when I was a young firefighter. I was the engine 17, blah, blah, blah. He went through the whole thing in vivid detail. And so it's always been there, but you suck it up and you suppress it and you put it down, and there's really nobody monitoring or tracking the trends until recently. Now PD's been real good at it. They have a site called Blue something, and then the Behavioral Council, with Jeff Dill, they monitor stuff. So of the ones that they were able to track, and they say there's a 40% tracking accuracy, between the two, there were about 256 suicides in 2018. So that's just because they're starting to track and look back, and how many people are saying, yeah, there was suicide, or what was the issue? Or now so that's why we extend our services to the retirees as well. Fortunately, we've had that push with that. We're starting to, with our peers, we now have retirees as peer supporters. We have peer supporters from every division. From the 2 in, 2 out event, a couple of the spouses said, hey, how about spousal peer support? Like, hey, great idea. So now we're going to add spouses to the team. So we're going to give them the training. They're going to be out there and doing it. I think culturally, it's getting to the point now where we can't ignore it, is really the only thing I can think of. We're more open as a society to talk about it. Even as much as we've done, I still have people on our job that haven't bought in. It's frustrating. It's like, dude, okay, look, here's the chaplains, sat with all the BCs, and I'll just put them on the spot. And say, look, some of you are not touchy-feely. They're your touchy-feely people, okay? If you have somebody in your battalion you're concerned about, call one of the chaplains and say, hey, can you check on them? And then I had one BC say, okay, well, when we do that, can they circle back and let us know that everything's okay? No. Confidentiality, no, we're not going to tell you. Just until we screw up, you have to assume we did it. And people are just starting to call, and they're opening up now. So now guys that are going back to the facility, or they go to focus, let's say, and they get treatment, they're more apt to come back to say, shit, dude, I would have never admitted that I went to focus with my wife 5 years ago, right? But it's okay. It's okay to be not okay. And for us, if we can, as leaders, start admitting that, hey, yeah, that sucked. We need to talk about it for a little bit. So it's just opening up and recognition.
Thanks for your talk, Chief. I'm a Wildland guy, but yesterday several people mentioned the EMDR, the eye movement desensitization processing, and you mentioned Firestrong. Phoenix Fire Department has Firestrong, and they said it's quite effective. Have you used that, and have you come up with the same results?
Yeah, so the EMDR is something clinicians do to help you. So that's different than the Firestrong. But there are clinicians throughout our region that do the EMDR. I've never actually received it.
Can I put Firestrong on your website? Can we put your website?
I don't think they don't have it hooked up to the internet.
Yeah.
Oh, do? Okay.
You keep talking.
Okay. And then I'll bring up ours too.
Yeah, I think there's a great one to show.
Oh, okay. So EMDR is what you're going to receive. So at Focus, they have a couple clinicians who are trained in that, and there's other clinicians regionally that have it as well. That's just one model. It doesn't work on everybody, but that's where the one-off thing comes in. You have to look at the clinician has to be the professional. So we divert all that stuff to them. The thing.
83% effective.
What's that?
EMDR is about 83% effective for people that go through it.
So 83%.
Like you could probably type this a lot faster than me.
No, you're doing just fine. I'd be using one finger. Yeah.
I'm using two, so I'm ahead of the game on that one. Dago wrong.
Which would Dago? San Dago? What? There's a D in front of San, too.
No pressure. I know, right?
Nobody's watching, you're okay.
Where am I at? Okay.
Backspace, there you go.
San Diego.gov to get, is that right?
Yep,
Yeah, yeah.
yep. Okay, so take you to this page, password of support. So here's our page, and it's for all fire and rescue police, the lifeguards, police, ourselves, and then we give kind of our joint solidarity agreement, things that we can help with. And at the bottom of the page, you select which department resources you want, so select the fire. And from here, it gives our 800 number, our wellness mission statement, and then your resources. So if you want peer support team members, click on the peer support, you members right there. Focus Psychological, and then Fire Strong there. What we're doing right now is revamping the page to also have the resources that, the additional resources like will come up on the Fire Strong page. So they're all just areas where you could do it. So the Fire Strong model where you can reach out and find a peer in Nantucket, whatever, you want, looking for that fire department, or you don't want to talk to anybody regionally, you can find a peer from another department.
You know where Fire Strong is?
Just pick anyone, yeah.
No, I didn't mean to go there, but hey.
That's okay, yeah. Yeah, so all these things, all these pieces here, we're looking at adding these to our website. But again, it's all individual. Fire Strong only costs like $500, so it's real easy for an agency to join up. It's a nonprofit through Phoenix Fire, they run it. And so you're able to get to their members, you're able to list this thing. We just wanted a little bit more creative control over the thing, so.
My thing with Fire Strong is that it's, as you saw, like I love San Diego's page because it's well put up together, right? It's visually pleasing, it's relaxing, you can find your information quickly. Fire Strong, when you look at that first page, there's lots of boxes that are all together, and then there's that crisscross background. And you know, if you're under distress and your perceptual field is narrow, looking at something like that is overwhelming, right? You know, San Diego's done a really good job of making it easy for their members to find support. So I can either call that phone number and get a hold of somebody, I can go onto their website and I can get a hold of somebody. And so I encourage people that have Fire Strong and use that to make sure, just like your EAP, observe, go through it, check it out before you're under distress. Make the phone call, ask, you know, what resources you have before you're under distress so that you have a better idea. Finding the peers is hard. I don't know if you watch me, but to find the peer list, I had to go up into a tab that said support and then pull down to peers. The first time I used it, I was like, where are the peers? I'm supposed to be easy, you know, make it easy to find the peers in here, and I couldn't find it. So if you don't know that and you're like this, it's going to be hard to access that. But so San Diego, I think, is beautiful, and everybody should steal it.
Yeah, sure. Well, and we've had a couple agencies in our jurisdictional border here that, you know, hey, can we? Yeah, absolutely. You know, if you want to reach out, or you have a member that wants to get in there, and all that we ask them is, hey, if they call our 833 line and they say, I'm with Poway, and cause we all know they're messed up, right? Wait, is it me? You know, they, what do we do with your member? You know, if they want a peer supporter or a chaplain, just tell us who we're supposed to contact, and we're certainly there, more than happy to assist. But yeah, I agree with Tina. It just gets cumbersome. It's a great resource, and I applaud Phoenix for jumping way ahead of all of us years ago and putting this together because they had a bunch of suicides, right? So that, unfortunately, that's what leads us to this problem. right? It's not all the everyday, gosh, now we're getting calls from our PSU, which is Professional Standards Unit, so they do the disciplinary stuff. And just, hey, is this person on your radar? Got it. Okay, a lot of ULs, whatever, unplanned leaves, and so then we just do some follow-up, make sure that they're okay. So we're trying to, and management is trying to get these people before they're disciplined. Let's get them before they're on their last chance agreement. You know, it's just amazing how many times we've had to facilitate getting somebody in a facility. So you guys probably have them, and this is going to be really cool moving forward. Tina and her team, and they've been doing some real good cultural training for the clinicians, and I think they're fully bought in. I mean, they want to be there for us, and it's going to be good.
Yeah, and maybe to both of you, is there anything being done on the front side of this as far as screening, look for personality types that are resilient to these?
Well,
With PD, yes,
Yeah.
they do the psychologicals, but we don't.
and it's, this
Yeah.
is so like, literally yesterday I was sitting there typing out an email to a president of a workers' comp company, right? And here's one of my concerns. So it's interesting, I get to go all over the country, I'm all over the state. Northern California, you guys do a lot more psychological testing for the fire service. Down here, we don't. And I think it's because a lot of us went to PD a couple of years ago whenever we went, oh my gosh, we need to do something. We went over to PD and said, what are you guys doing? And we pulled it over, right? And I will say that clinically, a lot of that stuff doesn't have much value. I got a workers' comp report on somebody. They spent $2,500. This is a return to duty, a fitness for duty, return to work evaluation. $2,500. The clinician spent 2 hours with the person. The rest of it was going through testing and all that kind of stuff, which I will tell you as a clinician who actually works with people, you know, you're coming into me telling me, Tina, I can't sleep when I'm having problems in my relationship. I look through that testing that they did, and it's garbage. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't inform me clinically of how to help that person. So we need to redo some of that. My biggest worry as we move in and engage in workers' comp, which I totally believe is there for a reason, right? We need to use it, and we're moving forward on it. My biggest worry is that we're going to start filtering people out in 2 areas. We're going to ask you if you have a family history of cancer, and we're going to ask you if you have a trauma history or anything as a child. And if you have one of those things, that we're going to start going, well, hey, sorry, thanks for your interest, but as a career firefighter, you have higher risk of cancer, and so, you know, you're out. You know,
Yeah, not only that, is you have somebody that, how do you find predisposition to somebody that after significant trauma after trauma after trauma is going to be in his position?
Yeah. You look at the cops, right? The cops have passed. They all go through psychiatric testing in order to be hired. So all of them have passed that kind of testing in order to go to academy and all that kind of stuff. And look at how many people end up still having difficulty, right? So it's not, yeah, there's nothing.
It's really just a matter of us getting ahead of this, training them early that it's okay to seek help, to get the defusings right away, to get them right after the incident, to go seek counsel, talk about it at the firehouse, make it okay, and that's where we're going to start helping people.
I just wanted to feedback on that and say what I've learned through being in peer sport is that, and through my own experiences with my post-traumatic stress injury, which is healed for the most part, is that we're not robots. We're human beings, and we can only take so much, so long, and then we need to do something to heal ourselves and each other.
As humans,
Yeah.
we're like that, right? As a therapist, I'm like that. I literally visualize that I have a giant face that people pour their dirty water into, right? I hear a lot of shit throughout the course of my day, right? I have to remember, and I'm just as bad as everybody else, like call the kettle black, right? That I have to remember that I have to do stuff to let go of that stuff too, that we have to do that. So that goes back to the point that we're all humans, and there's no way that this stuff doesn't have an impact on us. It's just that the legacy in this, the fire service and law enforcement, everybody else has been emotional invalidation. Suck it up, buttercup, move on, you know, and get through it. And we have had change. We've had change because of people like Mary telling their stories, and Noel, and Dave. What he didn't say about our 2 in 2 out was he and his wife were gracious and were our Dr. Phil couple, and they sat in front of our groups of people and they talked about their experience together in the fire service. And I was telling somebody actually last night, one of the best lines he said that when he learned, do you remember what it was? When you go home and you ask, do we need me to listen or do you need me to
Yeah.
fix it? And after that, I mean, isn't that a great line? And I was like, Dave taught all of us that, you know, through he and his wife sharing. So do you need me to fix it?
Yeah,
Do you need me to-
we're all fixers, right? And And immediately, so we kind of got into the habit with my wife, is that when she's starting to talk to me about something, I'll just ask her, are you going to want me to fix this, or am I just listening? And and I'll tell you, and it is funny, but as soon as she says, no, I just want you to listen, boy, the relief off of my shoulders, now I can just kind of sit back and I'm not trying, because they are capable, right? I mean, she already knows, they just process it differently. They want to just talk, but they already know it, they have their answer, right? They have their answers, right? My wife's not here, so I can say, but no, it's just interesting, but they just kind of go talk through the issues. As guys, we kind of go through all the issues in our head, and then we come up with our decision. But they're not asking us to make a decision. So yeah, it just kind of works.
Yeah, it got me thinking. I'm familiar with a case, and I know this whole workers' comp and getting down that road is new. And I'm from Colorado, so I'm not from the California side. But once workers' comp gets involved, then there's that release back to duty. And what does that look like? And because this is so new, I'm familiar with, firefighter, he got pretty deep, and he made the suicidal comments. And now the department feels like it's a liability to bring them back. And it's easy, I can take an x-ray of an arm and go, yes, it's healed. You can do some tests to show you're healed. How do you...
Yeah, and not only that, but the piece I forgot to tell you is that work comp is public record, right? So you do your insurance, you do it by long-term disability, FMLA, nobody ever knows. It stays confidential with you unless you sign a release. Work comp is public record. You, as an officer, if you get a 5150, that could take away your peace officer license. You can't carry a gun, right? So it's critical for them. It's not so much for us, but yeah, that return to duty component of, God, fit for duty in the city is a nightmare. And we can't just take somebody off and say, okay, you're psychologically unfit, but that's where we fit in. They can call us, we can kind of help preempt some of that, but when it gets to that level, and now it's affecting their job, or again, the confidentiality piece and getting the officers and everybody to know that, hey, we complained about such and such an individual, went through the chain of command, now shift commander's reaching out, hey, this person needs to be blah, 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 blah. They're not going to find out, and then we'll find out a year later, yeah, but they never did anything. No, because it's confidential, idiot, right? We're not going to tell you we did something. We can't tell you, right? And
it's a trust thing too.
Yeah.
I've heard, how does the crew trust somebody to come back, right? Somebody asked me that yesterday. Is it going? Okay. Yeah. Everybody's going over that one.
oh, yeah.
But that's a big one too. How do we regain trust? How do we know the person that just said, I could just drive this fire engine into a wall right now, and you all heard it over the headset, and then that person's gone for, several months, and then comes back, and you're all supposed to be like trusting and open again, but trust takes time to build back, and that's a hard thing, right? That's a piece that you guys individually have some feel to, right? You can be that person, and I don't know if you guys have had to deal with that more in your department.
It's just getting there.
Yeah, so that's another
Yeah.
component of it too,
And that would be the psychiatrist that, through risk management, that deals with the work comp to try to figure out, what is okay to be back to work. Are they, capable? And that's where the cultural competency piece comes in that's so important, not just at the clinician level, but at the facility level, and the psychiatrist that's actually doing the evaluating. What are they going to have to encounter? Make sure that if you go into counseling and you start talking about your 6-day or 4-day or mandatory or this, and the counselor's like, what? Can you explain that? You lost me, right? I'm okay. You're no good to me. I'm leaving, right?
Or Ben, when they tell you to lay off the coffee, right?
Yeah. Just lay off the coffee. If you get a call, as Ben likes to say, if you get a call, just don't go.
Yeah.
Right? If it stresses you out to go on that response, just don't go.
You didn't sleep well last night? Just
Yeah.
take the day off.
Yeah. So it doesn't work for us. So that's where all that stuff comes in.